Hello, everybody!
Just like two random girls, and I'm gonna be talking to you guys.
Girl shoes.
Woo!
Yes! This is going really well so far. See you on the flip side. We don't care. We're gonna keep doing what we're doing, alright?
Oops, my bad. That's big now.
Because I curse like a sailor.
Like a trucker. We got some stories.
We got a lot.
The theater.
She my little friend. Woo-woo! What?
Temporary technical difficulties. A little piece of my soul dies every time I think about inappropriate content coming your way.
Quarantine edition.
When you look, tell me, what do you see?
Just a dog in a park.
Is it real? Is it fiction? Only make believe you.
Hi guys, and welcome to A View from the Mezz, a chat with Broadway Babes. I'm Gina.
And I'm Tracy.
And today we're going to be talking about the musical Finding Neverland. And stay tuned because next week we're going to have a special guest on our show.
I'm so excited.
Me too.
All right, so Finding Neverland. What an emotional show.
Extremely.
From start to finish, it just has such a beautiful story. And it was, I don't know, I saw it, I think 2 or 3 times altogether. And went, like, the first time, I didn't think that I was going to get that emotional. And I was, like, wiping tears with my, like, dress. Like,
yeah.
because I was like, I don't have any tissues. I didn't think I was going to get this emotional.
Did I see it with you for the first time that I went? Because then I took...
I'm trying to think. You were supposed to go with Chris.
Yeah.
And then
Oh no, I went with Chris. Yes, and then he had something to do, so then I took you, and then I went back and took him and my parents.
Yes.
Yes.
So I remember going to see that, and I was like so excited because of Matthew Morrison. And
from Glee.
Yes.
And Laura Michelle
Kelly, because we had seen her in Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins, yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I can't handle it. And then we had Carolee Carmello on top of it.
Yep.
Who
was
we had
a
seen
star-studded
so many
cast.
shows.
It was great.
But so before we jump too far into the cast, because we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. Why don't we tell them about
jump
the plot?
into yeah.
Okay. So some of you might know, some of you might not know. Finding Neverland, the musical, is based on the Academy Award-winning film of the same name, and the story follows playwright JM Barrie as he stirs up the courage to become a writer. He finds the inspiration that he's been missing in all of the stories that he's trying to write when he meets the beautiful widow, Sylvia, and her 4 young sons, Jack, George, Michael, and Peter. And he kind of just the kids playing and, just being kids and how amazing their imaginations are. And he's inspired by that. JM Barrie, he comes from a very high class family. He's married and everyone expects him to act a certain way. And all of a sudden he's gallivanting around town with these children and their mother, and they're playing imaginary pirate fights and everything else. And everyone thinks that he's kind of going off the deep end, and they're wondering why he's hanging out with this woman and her kids when he's married himself. Turns out things at home aren't so great. And then he writes the story of Peter Pan. JM Barrie is a real person.
Yep, a boy who never grew up.
That's right. So it's just a beautiful, beautiful show. As Tracy said, I didn't think it was going to be, I didn't think I was going to have that much of an emotional reaction as I did. I still to this day tell people I have never cried as hard in any other show before that or after that. If you guys have seen the movie, you probably know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, watched the movie or tried to find the show on tour when quarantine is over, if the tour isn't done. So should we talk
God,
about
I can't.
What?
I can't. I'm just thinking about the show and I'm getting emotional. And,
I know.
But
I know.
speaking of like the show and the music, the music for the original production was written by Scott Frankel, because the musical originally was in Leicester, and then was revised once by Gary Barlow and then again by Elliot Kennedy, with lyrics for the original production by Michael Corey, and then again Gary Barlow and Elliot Kennedy. The man who was Peter Pan was also a basis for the script of the show. It opened on Broadway in 2015. I don't have an exact date in 2015, but it was it was on Broadway for 17 months.
Wow.
And closed on August 21st of 2016.
Yeah, that doesn't seem...
And then went on tour.
Yeah, and we can talk about the tour a little later, because you and I both saw a tour. Yeah.
Yes, we did.
So
yes, we did. So as we spoke about a little earlier, it had amazing musical numbers. One of my favorites, actually, because it's just like a fun number, was We Own the Night.
Oh, so fun.
During the dinner party, where they're like, he's really like showing the kids how you can use your imagination, and
because they're stuck at this like
people a boring dinner
stuffy
party.
dinner party that his wife wanted to throw.
Yeah. And like he and the kids are all like trying to keep it together, and then they like freeze the room, like quote unquote freeze the room, and start like this whole musical number on just playing pretend and only inviting certain people into their imagination to play with them. And it was just like, it's a really fun number with a lot of really cool choreography.
Yeah. The entire cast was obviously super talented. Obviously they're on Broadway, but this was a very physical show. Especially for the main woman characters playing Peter Pan.
Yeah.
So a little, did you know the developmental reading for this before it even hit Broadway or even hit like out of town tryouts? Kelly O'Hara was tied to the reading, Mary Beth Pyle from Anastasia, Michael Kumsty from 42nd Street, and then Diane Paulus, who was the director of Waitress and a bunch of other things, Jagged Little Pill, she directed this. And they had their out-of-town tryouts at American Repertory Theater in Cambridge, Massachusetts, a year before they opened on Broadway.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was, and I feel like it went through a few changes. I feel like they did, between the reading to out of town to Broadway, I feel like there was a bunch of changes, which I can't really speak to because, well, we can from Broadway to tour, but everything before Broadway, I didn't see any of that.
To the original casts.
I've definitely was always interested in seeing things before they come to Broadway, and this would have been one of them that I wish I would have seen, just to kind of see like what changed and why.
Right.
Because when we saw the tour, we had a lot of questions.
We had a lot of questions, and we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Again, like we said, a little bit later after we talk about some of the cast and the awards.
Yeah.
And so on. So like we said, there were a lot of famous actors and actresses that brought their expertise to the show. Some being Matthew Morrison of Glee and Laura
Jeremy
Michelle Kelly
of Mary Poppins, Jeremy Jordan,
Teal Wicks, who we discussed in our episode last week.
Yeah.
And Carolee Carmello, who was in Mamma Mia and Addams Family, and I could go on forever because she's one of my all-time favorite Broadway actresses.
Forever.
And I've met her several times. She's amazing, and she's such a sweetheart.
Kelsey Grammer.
Yes, who played James Hook, and Charles Frohman. Who is JM Barrie's I guess manager /
publisher, editor, something like that.
Editor. And he was taken over when Kelsey Grammer left by Terrence Mann, who played the Beast in Beauty and the Beast.
Yes.
Let's see.
And as far as I know, from the out of town runs through Broadway and even into the tour, Peter Pan has always been played by a female.
Yes. And I guess one of the greatest examples that we could counter that with Peter Pan always being played by a female, brings me back to one of my all-time favorite Peter Pans, a VHS that I had and I played over and over and over again when I was a kid, was Mary Martin.
Oh yeah.
As Peter Pan. And I remember having that VHS and just because it was the show taped on a tape because it was like a live action. So it was live action before there was live action.
Yes. Yeah.
So I just remember watching it and then rewinding it and acting along with it to certain parts, getting up on my couch and singing the I won't grow up, that song, and so many of the songs that weren't in the Disney cartoon but are true to Peter Pan and how he thinks and just how this story is timeless.
Yeah.
It's been told over and over and over again in
so many different ways.
Yeah. And people are still wanting to see it and wanting to listen. So it shows you and it shows us the message is so strong in this show. Yes, you can become an adult and get a job and have a career, but every person should always keep that little childlike ability inside them.
Yeah.
So to be able to play and not be
remember
and not be too super serious about themselves or about others, to take things as they come at you and be happy.
Remember simpler times when
yes,
like you said, you were happy and you didn't have a care in the world. And obviously in this show, those kids sort of have that, and that's why they have their imagination, but they've already lost their father, and then their mother ends up getting sick, and the
It's-
one
They have to
child,
grow up.
yeah, and the one child who wouldn't get, the one child who was so stuck in his books and didn't understand why people were playing pretend, because he was like, we have to live life. My father died, my mother is sick, and everyone else is like, JM Barrie and his mom are like, whoa, 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 we need to just, you need to be a kid. And
Mhm.
that's why he was the inspiration for Peter Pan. It's just such a
I'm gonna
beautiful story.
cry.
I know. Yeah, it even you know, it's just, it's an emotional one for sure. It
It
is
is.
a fun piece. It is a beautiful story. It just touches your heart in a way that like no other show has done for me personally.
Yeah. Same.
And has like, you know,
Absolutely same.
made
I'm
me
looking.
sob uncontrollably.
Yes. Like, and
We
I
were
were.
not prepared. We were not
No.
prepared. I remember
No.
clutching onto each other's arms, like audibly
Why?
sobbing and gasping for air. Like what? But
Yeah.
we weren't the only ones.
No. Everyone. You could hear
Hmm.
the sniffles and like people like gasping,
Yeah.
like all around you.
Yep. And
Um.
even though there's like that, like heart-wrenching, like, oh my God moment where you are crying, then they
Mhm.
kind of smooth it out with like a finale song, and the ending that they have is just like
It's beautiful.
beautiful, and you're like, okay, now I feel good, like it's a good
Right.
cry.
It ties everything together, like, and just puts your mind at ease about what had just happened and what's going to happen. So it's an amazing show. Like, please, if you find the time when Broadway opens up again and you can find a tour,
Yeah, because I'm
it's
not
not
sure if the
going to.
tour ended after we saw. I feel like they might have still been going on.
Yeah, I was trying to look. I didn't see, but obviously now, like, we can't really find any shows
Anything.
because everything is closed. But
Yeah.
um, I'm sure that we could probably see a tour somewhere,
Yes. And I'm
like
sure, you
whenever.
know, once, you know, when and if the tour is over now, or after quarantine, I should say, when theaters start opening back up, I'm sure somebody is gonna, you know, grab that show and do it.
Absolutely, it's such a
Because
treasure.
it's doable.
But speaking of like the tour, to all of our listeners, like, just be aware that those are our listeners that saw the original show, like on Broadway. The tour is very similar to the original show, but it also has its differences. Like, they couldn't, with a tour that is constantly moving from city to city, they can't build those elaborate sets every time they land in a city.
Hmm.
So, like, of course, certain things get taken out or rearranged differently. You still get the full story, but I remember when we saw it, I remember looking at each other like maybe the second or third song, and I was like, is this new?
Right.
And
Because on Broadway, it had started with um, JM Barrie standing on a corner talking about how, like, Peter Pan was in his imagination, and then he got him down on paper. And then
yes,
it jumped into, like, here's his high society, like, stuffy wife, stuffy life. And then we got into the colorful park where he meets the boys and their mom.
right.
I just read an article where supposedly, and I don't know if this is like part of the reason why they changed the opening for the tour, was that Diane Paulus was approached by a gentleman
Mhm.
who I believe was a reviewer. And he said, I have a suggestion for the start of your show. And she was like, okay. And he said, just get to the park. Just get to the park with the mother and her kids. That's where your show starts. So the tour, they cut a lot of that
Right. Yeah.
and went right to the park. And I have to say,
it
seeing
takes
both,
away a little bit
it takes
from the
away.
story.
It does, because you don't get the full effect of where he comes from in life and what he's dealing with and why he's struggling with writing this, like, you know, his next piece. And
Right.
they joke in the show, they're like, all of your plays are exactly the same. Get us new material.
Right. And with them jumping right to the park in the tour, they cut out that All of London Is Here, that first major song that talks and walks you through all of
His life.
the stuff that JM Barrie is going through at home and with work, that eventually leads him to the park to try to write this amazing new show.
Right.
But without that song and just jumping right to the park, you're like, why is he sitting in the park?
Exactly, because in All of London Is Here, you see his wife who is like, let's pose for pictures, when he's really not happy, and you see everyone throwing drinks in his face, like, celebrate you and your play, and he's just like, but the play that you're celebrating is the same crap that I already wrote 50 times over. This is so fake.
And like the line from that show, and it just like echoes in my head, he's like, he says, listen to those cheers, even though I haven't had a new idea in years. So he's like basically like recycling the same idea for a show into different shows, just changing character names and like a little plot line here and there. But
yes,
he's really, really looking for this new show that's going to take him over the top.
Yes, and even his wife, the lyrics for his wife, she says, James, are you feeling all right? Get yourself together. All of London's here tonight. So she's like, she's a shower. Like, we got to show everyone we're perfect. And then she puts him down because she says, try at least to be the man who's worthy of this fame.
Yep.
And everyone's just like, let's drink. And throughout this whole
champagne.
Song, so you see like this life that he's living, that he's stuck in, and he clearly wants to get out, and he's like, this is not what I'm here for.
Yep. So
and then he finds the kids and the mom, and then Sylvia's mother is like telling him,
Madame de Maurier.
Carolee Carmela, she's like, you need to leave my daughter and my grandsons alone. Bye.
Bye.
But then you see, like, from his boss, who we said is acting like his manager, he gets that inspiration to write Captain Hook. From Sylvia's mother, he gets the inspiration to write the crocodile.
And he kind of like Peter Pan, yes, he kind of bases him off of the Sylvia's son Peter, but it's really like, when you look at it, it's really him. He's Peter Pan, and because he doesn't want to, he's not a grown-up all the way, he likes to get into this imagination with these kids and play all these games. And the story just like comes full circle when he realizes that.
And that's the thing is, JM Barrie is wanting so bad to be this like imaginative, playful person and relive his childhood and come down from that high society. And then you have Peter, who should be playing pretend but is just being very hard on himself and trying to be the man of the household, and is taking on too much responsibility and is growing up way too fast. And the two of them kind of teach each other different things and they meet in the middle, and
Yes.
it's a beautiful relationship.
So before we move forward, I was looking at awards. They didn't win any Tony Awards or Drama Desk Awards, but they were nominated.
Okay.
Matthew Morrison was nominated for Outstanding Actor in a Musical, and Carolee Carmello was nominated for Outstanding Featured Actress in a Musical for Drama Desk Awards. And then Matthew Morrison and Kelsey Grammer were both nominated for Drama League Awards for Distinguished Performance by an Actor. And then the Astaire Awards, they were nominated for Best Choreography for Mia Michaels, and Best Female Dancer in a Broadway Show for Melanie Moore.
Wow.
So they were nominated for a lot. No wins, though, but well-deserved nominations for all of these
Definitely.
actors.
Definitely.
Yeah, I remember, excuse me, I don't think I ever saw Kelsey Grammer. I think when we went, it was Terrence Mann.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Because I think Kelsey
even
had
when I went
just left.
He had just left. Yeah, because I didn't see him either. Terrence
But-
Mann is amazing.
Oh, he was amazing.
Phenomenal.
And I think when I went the last time, it was another actor because Terrence was out sick. And I can't remember the name of this actor, but he was really good as well. And then Tony Yazbeck
Oh yeah. Yeah.
was JM Barrie.
JM Barrie.
So, but Laura Michelle Kelly was in it for, I think, the long run.
Yeah, she was Sylvia for a while.
And Carolee Carmello had gone because she was doing, I think at the time she had moved on and started doing like rehearsals for Tuck Everlasting.
Yes, and then that one didn't last.
And then that went
Tuck
under,
Everlasting.
unfortunately.
Not
Do you
so
remember
lasting.
that?
We had tickets to go see that.
We had tickets to Disaster
Yeah.
with Roger Bart because you know how much I love Roger Bart.
Roger.
And then I think it was like maybe a month before we were supposed to go see it, they went under.
Yeah. Yeah, I shouldn't be laughing. Yes.
And then
I'm not laughing at the fact that they went under, people. I'm laughing at the fact that the story she's telling is just one you can't
funny.
make up.
You can't make it up. And then I was like, all right, we'll see Tuck Everlasting. It's also a new show. We'll see it in like its opening. And then I remember reading an article that they closed, and I remember calling you and being like, Jay, we're just not meant to see any of these shows. Guess what happened? Tuck Everlasting is closing, and they didn't even open yet. And then I think we wound up seeing Matilda.
Matilda, yeah.
And I was like, third time's the charm. We'll see Matilda. I don't foresee them closing anytime soon.
That was such a good one.
We just had the worst luck.
We did. It was one, and we never had dealt with anything like that before.
No.
It was one after the other, and I'm like, what is happening?
And I have those tickets in my ticket book, and it just says closed.
Closed. I found mine the other day, and I'm like, what's this? There's like Sharpie all over it. Closed.
Because like that never happened.
No.
And it happened to us 2 times in a row.
Twice. And then I remember when we got the tickets to Matilda, we were like, the day before, we're like, they better not close.
Like, we kept looking. We were like, okay, any news? No? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Any news? No. All right. We're going. But, my fellow Broadway enthusiasts, we love that you keep listening to us and coming back every week. Next week, we have another really awesome show coming up for you guys. Like Gina said earlier, we're going to have a special guest. G, do you want to talk a little bit about our special guest that'll be calling in?
I sure do. So, one of my really good friends, Andre Izugu, is going to be calling in with us. And yes, you will see our faces next week, we promise, along with Andre's. And Andre is going to talk about his theater experience and his love for the stage. And he's even going to be sharing a story that he has about an audition that he had for Hamilton the musical. So we're very excited to have Andre on. And we're going to start off next week's episode discussing a show that Tracy is about to pick out of the hat. And then he will call in and we will have some fun with Andre. But before we go, what's the next show, Trey?
Hold on. I am slacking this week and I didn't go into I didn't open the bag with all the shows in it and pour it into the hat. So,
Oh no.
I'm picking. Ready?
Okay.
I'm not
I'm
looking.
ready.
You're my witness. I'm not looking.
Not looking. Her hand is covering her And eyes. the winner is?
Oh, girl. All right. So, my friends, we're going to do this game again
Oh no.
where Gina's going to try to guess the show.
I barely slept last night. Okay, I'm ready. What's your clue?
Okay. It's not a musical.
It's not a musical.
It'll be our second show about a non-musical.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it together.
Okay.
You actually just posted pictures from that day on our A View from the Mezz Facebook page this morning.
Wait. It's not
Because-
I'll Eat You Last, is it? I'll Eat You Last, a chat with Sue Mangers. I am so excited.
Girl, we're diving in Bette Midler style next week. Yes.
I cannot wait to do the research on this one. Bet,
Oh.
amazing.
And I was just looking up, because on my Facebook I had a quote from the show and it was like, if you have nothing nice to say, come sit by me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I remember that show.
Yeah. I wish
And just,
I wish I knew Sue Mangers in real life because I feel like
Right.
her and I would get along really well.
Oh. The three of us would be best friends.
But Bette did a phenomenal job. And even people, we will get into it obviously next week, but even people who knew Sue in real life, when they saw the show, they were like jolted because they were like, oh my God,
Oh my
it was as
God.
if I was watching the real Sue on stage.
Yes.
Oh, you guys, I'm so
My
excited.
friends. Woo! It's going to be an awesome show.
It's going to
We
be
are
great.
So happy that you guys joined us for another night of A View from the Mezz, a chat with Broadway Babes. I'm Tracy.
And I'm Gina.
And we love you. And we can't wait to see you next week. Mwah!